Well, here we have a question. Starting at middle G with a frequency of 390 cycles per second, find the frequency of the following notes. And we're going to use this formula to find the frequency of this particular note for A. 6 half steps. And by the way, if you go to page 597, you'll find this table. And we're going to use this table for most of our work. Also, one other thing, if you notice when you go up an octave, you double the frequency. So here we are at middle C, frequency of 260 cycles per second. If we go up 12 half steps, we're at C, but the next octave up, and we just double 260 and we get 520 cycles per second. As a matter of fact, we could, in order to find the next octave for the cycles per second for the next octave of C sharp, we would just double 275 and so on. Now let's get back to the question. 6 half steps above middle G. So here's middle G. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's to B. Then C is 5, C sharp is 6. So now let's find the frequency using the formula. And N is 6 here, so we're going to raise this to the 6th power. And when we do that, we get 551.5 cycles per second. Now, let's do it a different way. I'll just call it C hat, or Q hat. We'll double, as we said, we're going to land 6 half steps above middle G. Will take us to C sharp, but we're going to be 1 octave higher than this. This is middle C sharp, so we'll be 1 octave higher. The cycles per second for C sharp at middle C sharp are 275, but we're going to double that, and that'll take us 1 octave higher, which is 550 cycles per second. Now notice there's a difference here. What are we going to go with? Well, when we use the formula, we're going to go with this value. But from now on, when we use the table, we'll go with the 550. We will, there's a bit of an error, we'll always concede to the table value or some multiple of the table value. Now let's do B. And it says 1/3 or 4 half steps above middle G. Well, 4 half steps is going to be, let's see, here's middle G, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We land on B, and the cycles per second are 491, so I'll just put Q equals 491 cycles per second. Isn't that easy? We just move up and down the table. Let's do C. An octave and a 1/4. That is 5 half steps above middle G. Well, let's go 5 half steps above middle G, and then we'll go an octave up. So 5 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We land at C, the next octave up. And we're now going to go an octave above that, so if we double 520, we get 1040. So Q equals 2 times 520, which equals 1040 cycles per second. Now let's keep going and do D, 25 half steps above middle G. Well, 25 half steps is 12 plus 12 plus 1. So we're going to go 2 octaves and 1/2 step. Well, let's just go the 1/2 step. That'll take us to G sharp. And then we'll go 2 octaves above that. So Q is going to equal, we're going to take, let's see, G sharp 413 cycles per second. And we're going to double that. And then double it again, 2 times 2, because we went up 2 octaves. And when we do that, we get 1,652 cycles per second. So let's do E. And E says 2 octaves and 2/2 steps above middle G. Well, let's go 2/2 steps above middle G. That takes us to A. And then we're going to go 2 octaves above that. And so we're going to be another 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 times, and notice the cycles per second for A is 437,437. And when we find that product, we get 1,748 cycles per second. Now let's do F, and this can be a little more interesting. We're going to do it 2 ways. We're going to use the formula. It says 11/2 steps below middle G. So Q equals, now we're going to use the formula, and middle G is 390 cycles per second, and then times 1.05946. And the exponent, n, in this case, will equal -11, because negative, we went below instead of above. And when we carry that out, we wind up with 207 cycles per second when you round to the nearest integer. Now let's use the table, and we'll count. So, by the way, if you go up an octave, you double the cycles per second. If you go down an octave, then you divide the cycles per second by 2. So we're going to go down. So here we are at G. We're going to go down 11/2 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at B, 9, 10, 11. We wind up at G sharp, which is 413 cycles per second. So using the table, Q is going to equal 1/2 of 413, which rounds up to 207 cycles per second. So we did it 2 ways. Don't you think this table is quite easy once you catch on? Okay,